Hey guys, welcome back to the On the Carlton YouTube channel. It's actually 2 a.m. I'm not sure what compelled me to make this video at this time, but have a lot of things to get off my chest, specifically around the Elijah Hollands situation, Will White getting delisted, obviously with the train on spot, same with Elijah. Mitch McGovern, him getting a 1 year contract, how we feel about that. I thought we cover it, get straight into it. So Mitch McGovern signed a 1 year contract. Now, I was actually one of the people at the start of the year where I was like, not even start, like halfway through the year, and I was like, get this cunt out of the team. Like he's not it. The game's gone past and whatever. And I still do have that belief, but I don't think he's in our best 22. I think he's a depth player at best. Maybe he'll play 10, 11 games this year, provided someone's out. But since we didn't get Buku in, I think he fills that hole, and that hole is so important because we don't actually, with Silvani leaving, as much as I don't like that guy, there's a hole in our back line that we don't have like a centre half back. We have Wiedering who's a fullback. Now, Wiedering will take the best forward on the other team. We don't have someone that'll take the second best or someone, like a second tall, like a sidekick to Wiedering. Now, people bring up Nick Haynes. I'd much rather Nick Haynes just play the intercept role, like what he's good at, right? For that centre half back role, people bring up Harry Dean, and while I agree from what I've seen and what I've heard, he's probably AFL ready from his first game, and probably plays all 23 games like Wiedering did, like a Harris Andrews did when they first got drafted. I still just want to be careful with him. I don't want to expose him and throw him into the deep end like that. And I get round one Richmond is a pretty easy game. Fucking, I know we lost this year against Richmond, but on paper it's an easy game. You still wouldn't want to, expose a kid like that. Um, you want to ease him into it, and I think I'd rather have McGovern as that second tall, or maybe even have him switch with Nick Haynes and have McGovern play the intercept role and have Nick Haynes as the second tall. But I just think Nick Haynes is he's a bit old and his body's not as strong as it can be. Like I remember the North Melbourne game this year, the second one, round 15, he got towelled up by Cam Zerha. I remember that. It was right in front of me, and I'll never forget him just getting bodied by Cam Zerha. So those like big-bodied forwards that are agile, Nick Haynes cannot play on them, right? I'm happy for McGovern to be that centre half back and to ease in Harry Dean, but I don't want to see McGovern play plenty of games. And again, I think if you got Buku Kamis in, Buku would have that role on lock. But unfortunately, we didn't end up getting him. Bulldogs kept him. We'll get him next year anyways. He's a free agent, so I'm not sure what they were playing at. It's not even in their best 23. But yeah, look, honestly, with McGovern, I wanted him out. I'll say it. I don't think he's an A grade player. I don't think he's ever been anywhere near an A grade player. And I've heard opinions, where prime McGovern is like an 8, 9 out of 10 player. I strongly disagree. I don't think he's ever been that good. I think at his peak, he's probably a 6 or 7 out of 10 player, like a B grade player at his best, right? His best game was probably round 1, 2022, when he took that hanger against Richmond and set up plays. That's probably like a textbook McGovern game when he had the beard. Maybe the beard was good luck, but we haven't seen anything like that from him since. Maybe last year, that 5 game patch where he's pretty good, but look, have him as depth, easing Harry Dean into the role. Perfect. Good decision. I wanted him out, but since we didn't get Buku, it's good depth. I'm happy to have him there. Now, a lot of people were unhappy with Will White getting delisted, and he's been offered a train on spot, so that means he'll train with the team throughout the preseason and off season, whatever, and he can get offered a list spot. People weren't happy. People were like, "Oh, is he any worse than Motlop? What does Motlop bring that he doesn't?" First of all, Jesse Motlop's don't ever slander Jesse Motlop on this channel ever again. I see you in the comments, cuz don't do it. All right, Jesse Motlop's a star, and he will be a star, and only Carlton is a Jesse Motlop slander free zone. All right, I just want to get that out of the way. I don't think Will White is better than Jesse Motlop. Even Flynn Young, there's a case for Flynn Young. He's better than him, but we re-signed Flynn Young, so obviously the club is stuck with Flynn Young. I don't think he's better than Motlop. I don't think he's better than Flynn Young. I don't think he's better than Frankie Evans. I don't think he's better than Ben Ainsworth. I don't think he's better than Zach Williams, right? Now, that might be harsh, but these are the players we have contracted, and I don't think he makes it into the team over any of them. Now, I actually do think Will White is a better player than Lockie Fogarty. I think he's just better in general, in every single aspect. Now, I know Lockie Fogarty is a defensive forward, and he's more there for like pressure. But fucking bro, kick some goals, cuz like I'm sick of this. Like, oh, he's there to provide pressure or whatever. Like, no, like at least kick a couple of goals. I'll never forget Lockie Fogarty in that Gold Coast game this year where he missed from like right in front. We were coming, bro. Like we were coming back. We were actually on the verge of like coming back from 50 points down a third quarter time or half time, whatever it was. right? The Frankie Evans show. I'm sure you guys remember that game. So I do think he's better than Lockie Fogarty, but Lockie Fogarty's contract till the end of the next year, and I think that saved Lockie Fogarty. I think that was a big point of the decision that was made. Now, will he be offered a list spot? Now he's competing with Elijah Hollands. Now Elijah Hollands, I'll get to a bit later. But if you take away Elijah Hollands' off-field issues, are you going to sit here and tell me you'd take Will White over Elijah Hollands? No, you wouldn't. I actually think Will White's best game this year was the second game against Hawthorn, where he played off like that high half forward. He kind of like moved towards the wing and stuff. It was the second game against Hawthorn, Doherty's last game. And he actually had a good game. But that role that he played is now filled by Ainsworth. It'll be filled by Jagger Smith probably. He'll probably play off half forward. It's probably filled by Hayward as well. So while I do think it's stiff, while I do think he's a good player and all, I just don't think he makes it over anyone else on that team right now. And he's just a victim of circumstance, right? Like if he, and I also think he shot himself in the foot by missing a lot of goals this year. I think he went at like 30, 33%, 40% in front of goal. So look, I mean, I do feel for the kid. Had a lot of passion, had that dog in him, but I just didn't rate him as a football player that much. Now we got Elijah Hollands, the big story. Now it's been interesting with him because he's been told to look elsewhere. Like we put his name out to clubs and no one came knocking. Now obviously he has the off-field issues, and he's come out and admitted it's an alcohol issue. I'm 99% sure he's come out and said that. Now some people think it might be more. I'm just gonna take his words at face value, right? Let's say he has an alcohol issue. I think when he's at his best, he is one of our top 5 players in the squad, including including Kerno, when we had TDK, Cripps, Hewitt, Doherty, like Wiedering. Like I really think he's in our top 5 players when he's on. You can't deny the talent, and honestly, I think if you had to pick between Ainsworth and Elijah Hollands just based off skill, you disregard off-field issues or whatever, you're taking Elijah Hollands 11 out of 10 times. Like it's not even a debate in my eyes. Obviously, now Gold Coast, he came over from Gold Coast. Gold Coast knew he was a risk, right? That's why we got him for nothing. This kid was a pick 7 in the draft. So we also knew what we were getting into, and people bring up, how many chances are we going to give him? I 100% agree, because I think this is his third chance now. I think his first chance was at Gold Coast, which he let them down. That's why they gave him away for nothing. His second chance was with us the start of last year. We took a gamble of bringing him on. Now, he actually played almost every game last year. Didn't have an issue. He was one of our best players last year. I'm not sure where he finished in the best and fairest, but I'm sure he would have been top 5, top 10. And at the start of this year, it was his third chance. Now, start of this year, he came out, put his hand up, said, I can't play, mental health, or whatever you want to call it. And he then came back in the Geelong game, had a great game. I think he came back for 3 rounds. And it just hurt. It hurt seeing him play so well because, like, what he's capable of. It's just wasted potential. And no one, like, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your beliefs are, right? No one ever enjoys seeing wasted potential. That's exactly what Elijah Hollands is. This kid could have been anything. This kid could have been a star. But at the end of the day, he was his own worst enemy, right? Now, people bring up the culture part. Would you want a player like that around the club, regardless of their skill? And for me, it boils down to, first of all, Graham Wright and Chris Davies pushing the Carlton first mentality, right? Like, you want to talk about culture shifts and like how to change the culture? This is the best way to do it. Them coming out and pretty much delisting Elijah Hollands, telling him to look for other options, and then paying out his contract. That shows that the club is moving in a different direction. That shows culture. That is culture. That's how you start building culture. The fact that no other clubs came knocking for him says a lot, I think. It says a lot about where he's at, how he's viewed by other clubs, maybe how he's viewed by players as well. I think that's a really important thing. I think if the players don't want him there, if someone like a Sam Walsh or a Patrick Cripps comes out and says, I don't want this guy in the locker room, or I don't want him, mingling with the kids, because we have a lot of kids coming in as well. We've got, Harry Dean, we've got Jack Eisen, we've got next year Cody Walker. Now, think of it from like a logical point of view. Now, I know not everyone is a parent. I'm obviously not a parent. I'm 20 years old. But if you had a kid, would you send them into that environment where, there's a player that's known to have drug or alcohol issues, whatever it is? Would you want your kids to go and mingle with them? No. Now, I understand that he's a great player. And honestly, there's nothing more I would love than for him to sign on, for him to beat all his issues, sign on, have the all-Australian career that I know he can have. But at the end of the day, we're not a charity. We're not here. We're a football club. Graham Wright has come out and said it, football first. I think that's a very important saying. I also think it shouldn't have to be said, but fucking whatever. We've given him 3 chances. This will be the fourth now because he's been given a train on opportunity, which means train throughout the preseason. And I put this question up before in an emergency meeting on the Jumper Punch. Shout out to Jumper Punch. Let's say there's a clause in his contract where he has to be drug free and alcohol free, and he's being tested throughout the preseason and off season, and he trains well and he has a great preseason. Would you guys be opposed to giving him a list spot next year? Because I wouldn't. Now I know that's a big call, and I'm aware of everything I just said, but it depends on how you view the risk versus reward. And I do think we have kind of replaced this role with Ainsworth and Hayward, but I think Elijah just brings something different, and I think he's a much higher ceiling than someone like an Ainsworth does. Now that's just my opinion. If the club comes out and says, we can't keep him, he needs to go, he's affecting the culture, then I'll stand behind the club, because at the end of the day, I'm not in that four walls. You're not in that four walls. We don't really know what's going on. But the most important thing for me, and I touched on it before, is the players. It's how the players feel about him. If the players want him to leave, he has to go, right? Having team chemistry and having like a culture in the locker room is so important, especially in this day and age. In sport in general, it can do wonders to have like a harmonious, team where it's an actual team. Everyone's locked in on the same goal. Now, if you have a couple of players, fucking around and whatever, it affects that harmony. Like you saw with Charlie Curnow, right? Vice captain in the leadership group, and he's twerking for Geelong, and I'm sure some players didn't appreciate it. I know for a fact some players didn't appreciate it, and it affects everyone, man. Like if you're not fully in, if you're not fully bought into this club, right, and you're not fully bought into the direction it's going, it shows, and it affects everyone around you, right? So that's the most important thing this offseason. It's just culture, culture, culture. Like you can't repeat it enough. Graham Wright, football first. Chris Davies, if you don't want to be here, you can get the fuck out. It's exactly what it was. So it's a touchy subject. It really is. And I'm kind of torn. I'm on the fence. I do think he needs to go. Like my head's telling me he needs to go. And this is my psychology. My heart's telling me, like, my heart's saying for him to stay. Like, I want him to stay. And I do. But yeah, it'll be an interesting off season to see how they train. Whether he gets a spot, whether Will White gets a spot. I still think you pick a healthy Elijah Hollands over Will White. They're also, delisting a lot of players as well. I think that's close to like 10. I think they freed up 10 list spots. So obviously they're planning something. They're freeing up the salary cap. Maybe next year, a Butters or a Humphrey, or, maybe we just want more depth in the backline. Like I'm hearing a name thrown out. I think Ethan Phillips. I actually have no idea who that is, but I think he's a defender in our VFL. Could be entirely wrong. I'm going to edit this and check this. And if he doesn't, I actually just read this in the Instagram comment section, but something like that, I wouldn't be opposed to. I wouldn't be opposed to having more taller defenders on our list that we can, use. Like even Liam McMahon, like we let Liam McMahon go. How good would it be to have someone like Liam McMahon on our list right now, right? Obviously, with Kerno leaving, our second tall forward is probably going to be Brody Kemp or Hudson O'Keefe. Now, Liam McMahon's probably more experienced than Hudson O'Keefe. He definitely is, right? That's not even a question. Brody Kemp is another role, and this is going on to an entirely different subject. But there's a lot of depth in our squad now. Like, there's a lot of opportunity, and there'll be a lot of fighting. Like, there'll be a lot of young players missing out, like Moya, like Cooper Lord, that'll probably struggle to break into this team. I said this in my trade recap, I've never been more excited because this is just more opportunity, and I've never seen this in the club. I've never seen, like, our club be like this, where, selection integrity actually exists, right? Before, like, we had Motlop, shout out Jesse Motlop, my goat, I love you, bro. He played 23 games this year, somehow. I think in an ideal world where we had Elijah Hollands and Matthew Cottrell in, I don't think he would have played every single game. I think he would have got dropped, right? Which is good. I'm not opposed to having players get dropped. Obviously, whatever happened. He had to play every single game. But now, hopefully, we're not in that situation next year. There's now options for every single position on the ground, which is exactly what we needed. It's what we want, right? It's a good problem to have. Even with like the backline with Harry Dean and Lockie Cowan struggling to fit in, it's what you want in this team, right? Anyways, this is a mini tangent, but depth, we have it now. We have more options. The Elijah Holland situation, kind of disappointing, but it kind of has to be done, I guess. So, hey, I mean, I trust the club. I trust Graham Wright. I've never trusted the people that run this club more than I have now. You definitely would have. There's not a chance you would have heard me say I trust Brad Lloyd. So I trust the people running the club. I trust that they're making the right decisions. So we'll see how we go, I guess. Thank you guys for watching. I'll wrap it up now. Still no idea how to end YouTube videos. I'm going to salute. Thank you guys for watching. Up the baggers.